I'm going to do a video doing a bit of a pickup change on a Kramer DMZ 1000 that I bought recently. I've got a specific issue in mind to tackle while doing this, which I'll talk to you about when I've got the guitar in front of me. But I'm going for a pretty budget option here, which is a pair of set of Seymour Duncan 59s. I think they're SH1s. I think that's their number. What I've noticed is that if you're in the UK, you can actually order off Amazon direct from Seymour Duncan. Certainly on the picture, the pickups themselves are unbranded. So yeah, sold as a Seymour Duncan vintage blues set. I'm certainly not going to be playing vintage blues through them, but I'm looking for a lower output pickup. So yeah, a 59, a set of 59s. The Alnico 5 single conductor cable. I will certainly be using the wiring diagram. There also some mounting hardware is available, is included. I think that's probably just going to be the screws, but if it was some surrounds as well, that would be amazing. As I have not bought any. So let's open this up and see. I'm just going to grab my X-Acto knife. 1 second. Very useful. I will probably not sell these at any point, so they're always useful to have around, so I'm not particularly worried about damaging the packaging. It's quite a nice box for something that came to about 100 quid, I think, for the pair. Which I guess is one of the advantages of buying direct. One of the disadvantages is that it's probably why loads of music shops will shut. How does this work? Okay, cool. What have they given me? Yeah, springs and stuff. So they, yeah, SH1N and SH1B, they have a little sticker on here. I think in reality, if you've got the pickups like this, yeah, they're probably exactly the same pickup. The branding will be upside down when you're doing it. I know that some of the fancier ones will actually have like branding specific to the model on there. You'll also have Seymour Duncan written on them. I guess the reason they've done this is so that when you have them in the guitar, you don't want your branding to be upside down. So if they manufacture them the same and brand them both the same, what you'd end up with, let me orientate this properly. So this would be a bridge pickup and it would say Seymour Duncan along here, but then if you take the same thing for this one, you've got Seymour Duncan on there and you flip them and one's upside down and one's not. I suppose there's a lot of advantages from a production perspective to just be able to make exactly the same pickups, and that's perhaps why these would be cheaper than if you bought the same set from a shop. I'm assuming you would have actually branded ones, and I think to buy an individual 59 you're looking at something like 70 quid. I paid I think £110 for this pair, so obviously a massive saving. I don't really care about the branding of the guitar, so yeah, just some all your mounting hardware and wiring diagram, which I will actually use. I'd only end up looking it up on the internet if I didn't, so there we go. Let me just peel these off so you share the satisfaction. Lovely. There we go. Nice set. So I'm just going to take out the old pickups. I'm going to keep them there DiMarzio Super Distortions from 1980, nice old pickups. The only problem I've been having is that when I've been playing kind of high gain sounds at practice in front of an amp, there's just been too much feedback. I think the pickups have gone a bit microphonic, so kind of thinking about getting them repotted at some point, but for the moment I am just going to be swapping them out. Should be a pretty simple one. There's just a back port, a nice chrome type plate on there, so it's just a case of take these strings off. Great, so I'll just keep them as they are if I can make sure they're not getting tangled. It's one of these, I think it's a Badass, might be able to check now, made in Germany, maybe it's a Schaller then. Yeah, just a two-piece, you've got your kind of string piece, and then the actual bridge wrap around style, just comes back over the string piece onto the saddle. Just flip this over. Quite loose, these screws. Certainly this one here feels pretty much completely threaded, so I may just change them for a... Just get my nail. I actually trimmed my nails earlier today, so it might not be much good. Yeah, this one's just floating around completely. I think that might just pull out actually. I would normally get a plectrum under this, but to be honest, I think it might even be too tight for that. Yeah, probably now I can put something under, so I don't have to use my nail. And what this does is just kind of pulls it up, gives some purchase in that direction. Yeah, it looks like a like it's meant to go into a particular thread. It's not a pointed screw, self-tapping one. So just do the same with this one. I mean, I'm not too worried if I can get it on reasonably tight again. I'm not too worried about the screws. I mean, I'm normally stand up when I play, so it's going to be pressed against my body. I'd say probably there's been some work on this in the past with these crimped connections. Just it looks a little bit lazy, really, like they've just not had cable long enough to go to the ground there. They're not crimping multiple cables together. That's just going from the switch straight to here. They probably just didn't want to desolder that. Maybe they just didn't. Yeah, don't know why they'll have done that. I may just replace those to neaten it up a little bit. Yeah, just looks a bit ugly. So I may clean that up. See again here, yeah, definitely some work. Here, they've soldered it together, but not put any not crimped it. So maybe 2 separate people working on this guitar. I'll see what wire I've got before I do anything, but my initial feeling is I'll probably yeah. Well, I'm definitely doing something with that, as I believe I've just pulled it off. Yeah, my initial feeling is I'm going to replace all of these 3 that have been a bit of a bodge job. May even just be able to take that directly down to there, as it's the ground. It doesn't matter if it's touching the top of that pot. Yeah, I think I'll just bring that down to there. I'm not sure whether that was meant to be connected to anywhere else. It doesn't immediately look like it. Okay, we'll have to see. Just looking for anything that should be grounded that isn't. I can't immediately see anything. Is this switch? Does that need grounding? So that switch is. Okay, cool. So next step is to have a look at what's going on under the pickups. Let's see what we've got in here. Wow. Okay, not a lot of length on those. So I'm expecting these to be DiMarzio Super Distortions, which, yeah, I can see DiMarzio made in USA underneath it. Interestingly, at this point, there's no branding on the pickup. And if I look underneath, which I'll show you in a second, the DiMarzio made in USA text is upside down. So similar to the Seymour Duncans, there isn't branding on the front of the pickup because they wouldn't have manufactured separate neck and bridge pickups. Or they may have, but maybe the ones they were shipping to Kramer, they just ship them loads of the same. If you had the text written on there when you inverted it, obviously, say we had DiMarzio written down, we'd have it here, written here on the neck. When we flip the bridge, then we'd have DiMarzio written upside down up here. It just looks a bit ugly, so I guess it was a way for them to cheaply manufacture them without branding the actual pickup. So what I'm just going to do is do a bit of that solder work I talked about, find some wire, just clean it up a little bit, desolder these, and then we can have a look at putting the new pickups in. So I want to fix these issues, this one. Still haven't looked at this and worked out what it's going to be grounding, but I'll just look at a wiring diagram and work that out. That's pretty. I'm not really sure what that's going to be. So looks like something's been snipped off there. Maybe that. Yeah, I think this cap's probably been replaced at some point. Perhaps the other one as well. Had a look around for some appropriate wire. I couldn't really find anything, so I found some braided speaker wire, which is a fairly heavy gauge. So I think I'm just going to use this. I think there are probably a lot of people that would completely balk at using this to wire a guitar. I'm going to try it out and see if it works. I suppose the risk is using cable that's not shielded. It might get a bit of buzz, but I mean, I'm looking around at some of this, and it's not looking like good wire at all. Just very thin gauge. I'll just cut this into some strips and try and maybe tidy some of this wiring up a bit. I suspect that when they wired these guitars up originally, they weren't taking that much care about it just from looking at it. And it doesn't have to look pretty. It's just here to do a job. So yeah, my next task is just to work out what's missing in terms of grounding. That is that. So I think this is meant to be grounding the next pot. So what I'll do is I'll just replace, I could probably just pull this existing length across. I'm not really sure why they've jumpered it. It is interesting though, if this is not the original wire, then most of this wiring, including the switch, which is possibly a more modern switch that's been wired in, it's all pretty standard configuration, so should be fairly easy to rectify. Yeah, I'll see if that'll stretch. If not, I'll be replacing it with some of that stuff. Okay, so I've cleaned this up a bit now, desoldered these pickup wires for the DiMarzios. I've just replaced where we had 2 cables bridging from there to there. I've just replaced that with 1 and used the jack to go between the 2. So I've put this one in new, replacing one of these ones, which was jumpered. And I've replaced that with just 1. I used the original cable that they had there. I've also replaced this longer one with the crimp on, with just this not particularly attractive but a functional bit of blue cabling there. So yeah, overall a lot cleaner in there. Okay, so if I just take that, yeah, that's one of them. I've kept them intact. And second one, much longer cable on this one. I don't know if they trimmed them down or whether someone did that when they worked on the guitar, but yeah. If I look at the back, that's a bit faded, but DiMarzio pickups, made in USA. And same on this. Yeah, so as you see, they're actually exactly the same. They're not kind of what you would think of as a neck and bridge pair. I'm replacing them with these. So next thing we see, that'll be in those pickup surrounds. Right, so now I've got the pickups into the surrounds. I've just made sure that I've done the orientation right with the curve of the guitar. So I think these should be right. I'll just pass this cable through here. I think I have actually used the ones that specify neck. I've put them in the neck, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure they're not any different. I may just coil this a little bit under the pickup so I don't have loads of length on that. Let's see. I might just be able to, if I can do that, I might be able to push some more into the cavity if I need to. And here is my problem. The base plate of the pickup doesn't appear to fit into the surround. Let me just compare this to the, I probably should have spotted this earlier. So actually on the DiMarzio, it comes to a point. Just let me refocus that. Yeah, so you'll see the edge of the pickup comes to a point. And if I just get one of these, yeah, there is an obvious difference. So I'm going to have to think of a way around that. Ideally, I don't want to change the guitar. I mean, there's also a pretty noticeable height difference. So I wonder if, yeah, I think I'll be okay for height, maybe. Yeah, that is good. So what I'm probably going to end up doing then is filing down these points. I'll just bring them into a bit of a triangle. I'm not worried about them looking neat. And as I said earlier, they're just a cheap set of pickups, so I'm not necessarily worried about the resale value of them. Yeah, bit of a shame, but that's what you sometimes get with these guitars. They've routed a kind of circle just to fit the pickups. I mean, in their defense, the guitar is called a DMZ on the basis that it features these DiMarzio pickups. So, you know, I suppose some would argue that by changing the pickups, I'm actually changing the nature of the guitar, but I've bought the guitar to use, not just to sit around. And as I said, these are just too microphonic to use with an amp, really, at any volume. So yeah, that's my next step then. My next step is just to file these down. I won't bore you watching me do it, but next time you see these, hopefully they'll come to a nice little triangle point, and they'll fit into these circular cavities along here. Okay, I've finished smoothing these down, so just done some little, doesn't look particularly pretty, but I filed them down on the corners. It was fine, the kind of end-to-end length of the pickup, it's just on these corners where they've smoothed it off in here. Again, that one, done the same thing. So now they fit nicely into the holes. To be honest, it's probably going to take me longer to try and get the pickups back into the surrounds, given that these springs are massive. I might cut them down, to be honest, but yeah, so now just drop that in so you can see that it fits. Wrong way around for the neck, but that's fine. Yeah, it just drops into the hole now. So I'll put them back in the surrounds. Now I've done that, I just used a very rusty old file to do that. It took me a couple of minutes. I guess there'll be similar problems, probably more common on older guitars, where I guess switching the pickups in these like consumer guitars wasn't really such a big thing. Yeah, next step's get them in the surrounds, then I'll route them through. The cavity's nice and big for the cable here, so it's very easy to pass it through. I guess, yeah, very much the same on the back. Sometimes you have to attach a bit of wire and pull that through to get them through, but yeah, they've been quite generous on this one. So I'll get them through, and next thing you see, I'll be wiring them in. Okay, so got the pickups in after I did that little bit of filing on them. They look fine. I mean, they don't look anywhere near as good as the pretty aged cream DiMarzios. They're a bit dirty, actually. But yeah, as I said earlier, I'm trying to address a specific problem with these being very microphonic. I need to play a gig in a couple of weeks, so I haven't got time to get them repotted. So depending on how they sound, I mean, it might be a temporary thing. I'm kind of wishing I'd spent the extra 50 quid or whatever I would have had to have spent to get zebra ones with cream. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's here to be played. I'm not that bothered about what it looks like. So yeah, the other side, I've got my cables coming through. This one is my bridge. This one's my neck. I need a bit more on that. So I've just coiled the cable slightly underneath so I can pull through as much as I need, but I'm not faced with an obnoxious amount. And if I want more, want to send some back, I can just push it into the cavity a little bit. Easier with the bridge one than the neck one, but that's fine. So it's a pretty simple wiring. You need to pull the sleeve back on this, and then this forms the ground. So yeah, the way you would typically do it is pull it back, just kind of tear it a bit, and twist it up to make a wire coming off somewhere around here. I'll probably be trimming these back a little bit anyway, just to give me a bit more length on the actual live cable. Just looking at the wiring diagram, as I said earlier, these are single conductor ones, so you can't coil tap them or anything like that. I mean, I do normally use single coil pickups, but I've heard that 59s sound absolutely terrible if you get them with multi-conductor and coil tap them anyway, so it seemed like a bit of a waste of time. This way of wiring it, although it's a bit fiddly getting the getting this sleeve off for the ground, it is so much quicker to wire up. So ordinarily, if you're doing a coil tap, you'll need to do it to a push-pull pot. But if you're using the kind of 4-conductor cable that you can use for coil tapping, you have to solder the red and white together, and then you put the green and the bare one to the ground, probably on the relevant pot. Yeah, for your neck and your bridge volume, you'll be wiring them to these neck and bridge volume pots. Yeah, and then you take them down there and put the ground on as well. So I will wire these up. I'll spare you my hideous soldering abilities, but hopefully I can get it looking a bit neater than it was. So now sorted, wired it up. Yeah, we're left with kind of 2 cables coming in from the pickups. Replaced some of the grounding stuff around there. It should all be wired up to the ground, and replace that one with that kind of ugly looking blue cable, but not any of the tasteful green stuff that they've used. So I've tested it just with just tapped a screwdriver on the pickups, and it's working. I'm just gonna plug it in, have a bit of a play. I'll put some samples of the playing on this video, probably intro and outro, and yeah, I guess for the point of comparison, I used this on a previous video I did playing East Hastings by Godspeed You Black Emperor with the old DiMarzios in there, so you can hear what it sounded like then. Yeah, thanks for watching.